Hey everyone, today's video is going to be about the possessed gypsy doll. This doll is 200 years old and has a very creepy story to it, and I'm going to be telling you about the owner who found the doll and his experiences with it. This doll is extremely creepy looking and it's over 200 years old. I want to cover this one because not many people have covered it from what I've seen. I've seen it in YouTube videos where people have got the most haunted dolls, but not just a dedicated video on its own as such. So I want to cover it. It's going to be a bit of a story time where I read through to you what the owner said about the doll. It was a very interesting story and I hope you enjoy it. The 200-year-old doll was discovered under a house in a small country town. Mr. Walton, who discovered the doll in 1972, believes that the doll is possessed by a little boy who drowned over 200 years ago in Europe. The supernatural saga began over 30 years ago when Mr. Walton returned home for his grandmother's funeral, and he decided to put aside his fear of an old haunted house. He was an avid collector of bottles, and he crawled beneath the floorboards of this long deserted house. With a torch in his hand, he spat aside dust and cobwebs in search of antique glass treasures, when suddenly a torch swept across his face and his blood ran cold. "What I found was something that looked like a dead child," Mr. Walton explained. "I jumped in fright and almost knocked myself out when my head whacked a floor beam." Avoiding its gaze, Mr. Walton inched closer and discovered the object was in fact a hideous doll. "Its clothes turned to dust in my hands," he said. "What I couldn't understand is the house had been flooded many times over the years, so why weren't the clothes washed away? Strange, but even more unusual was the sudden demolition of the abandoned house less than a month after the doll was removed. The house had been standing there for over 100 years, and suddenly it was pulled down," Mr. Walton said. "It was almost as if the doll knew what was about to happen and directed my actions. I found that very weird." Now the next thing that really got me is this doll supposedly has a real human brain inside its head. Awful, and really creepy and everything. Walton said, "When one lifts up the top of the doll's head, there's a brain. It looks something like the colour of wet newspaper." After placing the doll in a sack and leading it to his van, Walton and his brother set out for a long journey home. "I was dozing in the passenger seat when my brother nudged me awake and said the doll was making noises. I listened carefully and could hear the bag rustling in the compartment behind us. My brother was really shaken, and I had to take over the driving, even though I was just as nervous." The next shock came when Walton arrived home, and his normally placid corgi turned savage the moment he saw the doll. Then his relatives told him that they felt repulsed by the figure. "The way its eyes are on you all the time," one of them said. Walton's children would regularly play with the doll during the day, but when the doll was left in their bedroom at night, the children would wake up screaming, and Walton was forced to keep the doll beneath the house. For nearly 5 years, the doll remained under the house until it was taken to a museum in Sydney. It began to rain heavily when the doll was taken out to the car, but chillingly, Walton soon realised that whenever he took the doll out in public, it would begin to rain. In Sydney, museum experts told Walton that the doll was between 170 and 250 years old and was the work of a Romanian gypsy craftsman. Gypsies of that time believed strongly in spirit transference. They would create dolls through which a human soul could take presence in after death. When Walton learned the rarity and age of the doll, he decided to list it for sale. After receiving a generous offer, he decided to load it into his vehicle in the rain and set out for the buyer's residence. but upon arriving, he couldn't get the doll out of the car. I was glued to my seat. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't move. As if sensing Walton's money problems, the doll quickly became a talk show celebrity. And on one occasion, the host of a daytime television show arranged a consultation between the doll and a highly regarded psychic. When the doll arrived at my office in the rain, a painting immediately fell from the wall and the clock stopped, the psychic said. The camera crew organized themselves and I placed the doll on my lap. Then ever so slowly, the doll moved its head. You could hear the wood creaking as it turned and looked directly at the camera. One of the cameramen went deathly white and fled out the back door. The entire event was broadcast to thousands of viewers. As I tuned into the doll, I discovered the soul of a 6-year-old boy who was trapped within the wooden vessel. The child had drowned during a storm in an isolated area of Romania. His father, overcome with grief, fashioned a life-size figure in readiness for the ceremony of soul transference. The child has been imprisoned for centuries. He's confused and frightened, the psychic told her. The doll was brought to Australia by an immigrant and stored beneath a house. When a national magazine ran a story about the doll and the psychic's revelations, a group of American paranormal investigators travelled to Australia to perform a seance. And the doll unexpectedly spoke through them and confirmed everything that the local psychic had stated. The Americans told me I would never be able to get rid of the doll, Walton said. At least that explains why I couldn't get out of the car. The Americans were impressed and they wanted to place the doll on a lucrative talk show. But Walton refused, agreeing instead to a request by a famous Australian astrologer to conduct a national tour.
Why is he sort of so evil? What weird things have happened?
Well, we had him at the supermarket. We were doing a show at a supermarket, and there was one lady that was coming through the supermarket. She didn't see the doll or anything, and she just said something was very, very evil, and she actually screamed and passed out, and they took her off to hospital. Strange things like that. One medium we took him to said that she'd done a few things with him over the years, and she actually rang me up the other day and said, I don't want no more to do with the doll because I'm having lots of bad luck and I feel the vibes are coming from the doll.
Why don't you just get rid of the doll? You found it in the base of a house 25 years ago. Why don't you just get rid of it?
I can't. It's
Why?
just, I've tried to get rid of it before. When we were buying our first home, I needed some money in a hurry and I decided to sell him, and I'd advertised him and I took him to the place. A lady had rung me and wanted to buy it, and I tried to take him out of the car, but I don't know, I just couldn't take him out. It was really weird.
Lena, you're a psychic consultant. You've not sighted the doll before this moment.
No.
What readings are you getting? Are we all going mad?
No. I just feel quite a powerful energy, but I feel that the doll brings up for people, when they come within the vibration of it, their own apprehension and their own fear. That's the vibration that I get around it. I don't so much see the doll as an evil entity or process. I just feel that there has been, in some level in the past, maybe a negative magic energy, because we can have positive magic and negative magic, of course. But I feel that it's probably connected around a tragedy in some way, that something that has befallen somebody, particularly connected around a child. And I just feel, when I look at the energy, that there is an energy that's been very much trapped within the whole process of it. And possibly, if we can have a few moments later, Kerry, I can possibly do some energy release on it by making some sound and shifting the frequency and the vibration.
Kerry, are you genuinely afraid of this doll, or is it, you just...
When I first found him, yes, I was really afraid of the doll. But over the years, I guess he's just become a part of the family. So I've just learned to live with him.
He goes everywhere with you, I understand.
Yeah, everywhere.
Does he like travelling?
Well, we had a bit of an effort coming here because we got down as far as Stanthorpe. My wife got sick, so we had to drive back to Brisbane. And
Maybe he doesn't like the car.
I don't know, it might be car sick, I don't know what it is, but we had a lot of hassles getting here.
At one show, over 200 people watched as the rain poured down. We had placed the doll on the stage and the crowd was beginning to gather around when suddenly a woman started screaming, Walton remembered. Then as the hushed crowd looked on, the doll moved its head. On rare occasions I've actually seen the doll move myself, he said. For a long time I had him sitting in an old rocking chair upstairs. His arms and legs would move on their own. Many times we've had tradesmen arrive and they have refused to enter the house, even though they had no idea we owned the doll, he said. They just felt an evil presence and refused to come inside. Walton's wife even insisted that the doll was able to change its physical appearance. Some days I visit him and he looks very sad, she said. Other days he seems happy and smiling. I know it sounds weird, but he does change his facial expressions. So that is the story of the possessed gypsy doll. If you have enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. I make loads of videos just like this one. I visit loads of awesome places and you might really enjoy some of my content. I have covered Annabelle, which I will link at the end, and do check out my other content. Drop a comment below letting me know what you think of this doll. This doll freaks me out more than any of them. Way more than Annabelle in the movie especially, because the real Annabelle's not that creepy, which is very, kind of makes it more terrifying. But this doll, I've seen this doll like a long time ago and I had a horrible feeling just looking at it. Like, it's just, there's something about this doll that is so much worse than all these other dolls, to me anyway. So let me know below what you think of this doll and whether you believe that this doll is in fact possessed. Thank you so much for watching my video. My name is Samantha, and I will see you next time.